The birds outside your window, Bjarke, sound nice.
Yeah. There are so many birds now. I only have one cat.
I've got wildlife inside my office, the shape of my dog. He won't sound nice if you hear from him.
And with those comments on the various fauna around HQ and home offices, welcome to the Umbraco 9 release candidate launch live stream. A big milestone for us. This is the last step before Umbraco 9 is an actual real thing that we can all start using. My name is Rune. I am product communications producer at Umbraco. I've done a lot of work on the communication side of Umbraco 9. With me today, I have a senior developer on the core team, Bjarke, also lead developer on Umbraco 9 and team steward for the Unicore community team. Welcome, Bjarke.
Thank you.
I've also got Warren, who's a developer advocate at Umbraco and also a core team developer.
Hello.
Hello, Warren. Warren will be keeping an eye on chat and Twitter and LinkedIn and all of those crazy places where you are more than welcome to ask questions and we'll get them answered. We're also joined today by Emma. I was almost about to say Emma Raducanu. I've been watching way too much things. Emma Burstow, who is developer advocate at Umbraco and also part of the core collaborators team. And you've been doing some learn-a-thons around Umbraco 9, so you've been trying it out quite a lot. Welcome, Emma.
Thanks.
And the Danish saying, the raisin in the end of the sausage. We've got Filip Beck, who is CMS program manager at Umbraco and has been heading up a lot of the planning on Umbraco 9 together with Bjarke over the last 6 months or so, or a year, I guess. Welcome, everyone, and congratulations on the launch of Umbraco 9 release candidate, both to you, us at HQ, but also everyone in the community. This is a pretty big occasion. Filip, I mentioned you last, but I think I'll start with you. Could you just give us an idea of what is Umbraco 9 and why do we actually do a release candidate for it?
Yeah, so Umbraco 9 is the next generation of Umbraco. So it is everything that you know from Umbraco 8, everything from the Umbraco that's today on the modern platform from Microsoft. So it's on .NET 5, which was previously known as .NET Core. So it is all of Umbraco, but now on a more modern platform with that's cross-platform and performs better and all of the cool new features of a new programming stack. So yeah, I think that's the what of Umbraco 9 and why we're doing an RC. Yeah, release candidates are, of course, when we think we have something that's very close to something we could ship. We want to put it in your hands, in the hands of the community and users everywhere to get the last feedback before we actually ship it. So that now is the time to try it on a real project, migrate a project, try it on a new project, try with all your packages and all of that stuff. And when you then find some issues, there's still a month and a half or something like that until we actually ship it. So there's still time to get it fixed before we get it out there for everybody. So now is the last chance for you to get a sneak preview before it launches, but to also help us actually finish it, get it all the way over the line.
Yeah, and just a little disclaimer: we are going to say this a lot during the live stream. It's mentioned a gazillion time in the blog posts, and you're going to hear this a lot over the next month, but testing is incredibly important. The last home stretch, the last month or two before Umbraco 9 is released is crucial in terms of weeding out the last, hopefully few bugs that exist and getting a really, really solid launch for Umbraco 9. So
the main difference between beta and now is that everything is here now. So all the features are here, all the packages from HQs and forms and deploy, and all of it is ready for you to test. And so there should be no more blockers for you to actually start using this for real, and that's why now is when we expect you to try it out for real and give us the feedback.
And could you maybe expand on why it is a good idea to try Umbraco 9 and to, I mean, start getting your skills up so you're ready for developing with Umbraco 9 as opposed to Umbraco 8, which is a great product as well?
Umbraco 8 is pretty great, and as I said, Umbraco 9 is basically all of Umbraco 8, but on a better platform, on a better foundation. And we've done everything we could to keep the changes, the conceptual changes, as small as possible, so the database is 99.9% the same or something like that. So it's very, very close. So all your content just flows over if you're doing a migration. But of course, all of the code, all of your code, all of the packages, they need to update. Packages are going along really, really well. It's nice to see that the package authors from all over the community are doing incredible work. And I saw Bjarke just mentioned when we were talking before we went live that there's actually now already a package on NuGet that is targeting the RC, and it's been out for 10 minutes or something like that. So it's pretty amazing to see the hype going everywhere. So special shout out. I think it was Kevin Jump and Usync. And
surprise,
I know there's
surprise.
surprise.
I love the way he beats us to our own stuff before we.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's pretty amazing. But I mean, other than the fact that it's just the cool new thing, the toy to play around with, it's also cross-platform, as I said. So you're no longer tied to use it on Windows. And I mean, it just has so much better performance. If you haven't, you should go watch the talk by Shannon, one of our great colleagues from Code Garden a couple of weeks ago, where he talks about performance. And near the end of the talk, there was a whole discussion on comparing V8 to V9 performance, and the differences are incredible. So a lot less CPU time and a lot faster endpoint calls, endpoint responses. So like the overall experience of using Umbraco is just even nicer because it's just so much more smooth. And for me personally, as a Mac kind of person, it's so nice to finally be able to run Umbraco without a virtual machine and all of that stuff. So yeah, super, super cool.
Happy days indeed. Right. We've got a blog post up. Let me see if I can find it here. Of course, for the launch of the release candidate as well. And Bjarke, I think it makes sense if you kind of take us through the main parts of what is part of the release candidate, right? So,
Yep.
so what's new in this release?
Yeah. So basically, the release candidate, the definition was. We were able to implement our own packages also. So it's kind of battle tested for package development now. So of course we have forms and deploy and the starter kit available. And doing this, we also found one major technical issue regarding the packages and the way they worked, the Umbraco format at least. So we decided to go with NuGet only, so only one package format. This is something we have discussed for a long time, but NuGet didn't solve all the use cases, so we had to implement some features to be able to solve these use cases from NuGet. These features are regarding Umbraco content. So now we have something called package migrations, and package migrations by default run unattended when you boot your Umbraco, but you can configure it. And if you configure it, you will have this this button in the package section, so you can run them manually for each package. And this is also a use case that will most likely be used if you have Usync or Umbraco deploy, and you only run them unattended on your development environment, but then use Usync or deploy to push your content to the next environment. Then you don't want to run them. But as part of this, we also updated the underlying XML format, which contains all the Umbraco content. So now we have unique keys and everything, so you can in theory run it again and again and again, and it will not update. It will not create new things. It will just update the existing things with the same keys.
So it's. I mean, there's already the concept of migrations in Umbraco, right?
Exactly. So these are
for upgrades, for example.
These are exactly the same, but now we just made it possible to tire these for a single package, and thereby also using the UI to run them attended later.
Yeah.
But the actual migration steps are the same. You're just using an package migration plan instead of just a migration plan.
Very nice. And this also handles, oh, well, I guess you already mentioned it handles content. How does that actually work?
Yeah, so the package section already had the create tab where you could create a package. We trimmed this down to what is needed for Umbraco 9, so we don't need all the package information because all of this will be duplicated with the information you have in your metadata from the NuGet package. But the actual package content is still valid. So all the content, doc types, data types, whatever, is still there. And then you can, instead of generating a zip file, we currently generate just an XML file that you can put inside these package migrations. So we also have a helper package migration plan, which is just called automatic package migration plan, which will pick up this package XML file if it is embedded in the same namespace.
Nice. Very cool. And does it work with media?
So media, the content, the database content is now supported, which was not supported in V8, but the actual files, you will still have to copy these into your solution. And for this, the package migrations is also a good fit.
That is excellent indeed. So with that also comes some changes to the package section on our, right?
Yeah, so the thing is on our, the compatibility of packages to Umbraco versions was tied to the uploaded files, but now you don't have to upload any files anymore because now the files are on NuGet. So instead we have a checkbox you need to check called this package is in the new V9 NuGet format. And if you have this checked, as you can see on this small video, and you have the NuGet package URL, it will be filtered so you can show it in V9 back office. And when you deep dive into one package, then instead of the install button, you will just have the install instructions. So like you install the templates for creating a new Umbraco solution, you will need to run a command which is pretty similar. It's just .NET add package and then the package name.
Yeah, so it's not the click of a button, but it's more or less copy pasting a line of text.
So the underlying issue was basically because we can't update the dependency container, the dependency injection container runtime. So when it's built, and everything is singletons. So yeah, that's the reason we can't do runtime install of packages. You will need to reboot your application, which actually also happened before, but in V8 the web framework is super tied to IIS, the web server, which is not a thing anymore because as you know, .NET 5 and ASP.NET Core is cross-platform, so you can use whatever server in front of the Kestrel.
Yeah, so we're actually trying to see if we can bring back some of that one-click install functionality into Umbraco Cloud, because there we actually do know about all the infrastructure and we control it and stuff. So for those kind of scenarios, it might be something we would bring back. But yeah, that's still an idea, and that will probably not be ready by launch. Most likely not.
Fair enough. I mean, of course, there are some drawbacks to not being able to install it directly from the back office, but I also think there's some benefits in only having one package format. There's only one way to install and upgrade packages, create packages, right? So it means that documenting this is more straightforward. Everyone will be doing the same thing, and it's tied very much to Microsoft's like standard way of doing packages in .NET, right? Which means it's all tied kind of tied together in a better way, I think. So there's definitely some benefits there, but it will take a bit of getting used to for some, for sure, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's more or less the case that you will see for Umbraco 9 if this is the first time you take a look at it, that a lot of it is a little bit different because we're trying to follow the Microsoft best practices, but that is a good thing. We're getting rid of a lot of code that was just, you know, us trying to do what Microsoft was already doing. And this way we were a lot more familiar to you if you already, you know, work on other projects on .NET or on .NET Core. Yeah, so those are the only kinds of changes that is there between 8 and 9. It's changes where we're going towards the more Microsoft standard way and less of the Umbraco magic thing.
Yeah, very nice. And well done for getting all of this wrapped up nicely and ready. It meant a tiny bit of delay on the release candidate, but other than that, the final release is still scheduled around the same time. So great work on that side of things. Do you want to mention the other packages we have?
Yeah, so besides the commercial packages, we also have the starter kit, which is available on NuGet also. So now it's also just a NuGet package, and using the package migrations to install. And, yeah, it's also cross-platform support, of course. So it also runs if you're using Linux or Mac. And we also migrated a tiny package we have extending examine to basically creating an extra index where we index the text from PDF files. So it's also now available. Yep.
And finally, I mean, I guess we mentioned this a few times, but now Umbraco 9 release candidate is available on the official Umbraco NuGet. So it's not a private MyGet feed anymore. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Bjarke. Filip, I've heard this question quite a few times over the span of the development, right? So when is it time for me to start looking at Umbraco 9, depending on what people do with Umbraco, whether they contribute, develop packages, or just develop with Umbraco, or maybe are content editors or whatever they are. So who is the release candidate actually relevant for? Like, who should try it out?
Who should try it out? Developers that work on that use Umbraco. So as we said, you know, maybe the alphas were for people who wanted to contribute to the core, and betas were for package authors. Now the release candidate is for all of you that actually use Umbraco day to day, the developers that build on it, maybe even content editors. You might need a developer to get it set up, but I mean, there's not really anything to see for you as a content editor because all the features are there. They're all the same. So as a content editor, it's probably not that interesting. But for you as a developer, now is the time to try it out on real projects. And I mean, if this is your first time, you start dipping your toes in the waters of .NET Core and the next generation of .NET. I mean, that would be a fantastic experience for you, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, the good thing is that .NET Core has been out for a couple of years now, right? So there's already a million blog posts out there on the internet. So whenever you have a migration issue, you say you Google for how to do this in .NET Core, and there's 10,000 answers to it. So we're at a pretty good state with that. So you don't have to look only in the Umbraco documentation.
Yeah. And also increasingly, as we get closer to the final launch, people are starting to talk about real projects on Umbraco 9, right? So when is the right time to actually start planning for this?
I would say planning absolutely now. And I mean, if you asked me personally, I wouldn't hesitate on running this in production. But of course, the official reply is that we don't encourage you to do that before there is a release. But I mean, this is what we would ship if no more issues are found. Then I think there's probably a handful or something that we already know that we'll fix. But other than that, it's ready. So this is very ready, and it is tested. It is very validly tested, and it is a good place to start. So I'd say, if I come from the agency world as well, and I know there's a lot of planning involved and stuff. So I would say if your project is due to go live after September, I would say absolutely start it in Umbraco 9 now, because that way you'll still have at least a month for us to be delayed, or for your project to be timeline to be changed or something like that, and you'll still be safe and not running on a pre-release. So yeah, I would say absolutely. And I mean, also from the agency world, I know that lots of agencies kind of have a downtime over the summer because all the customers are, on vacation and stuff. So this might be the time that you actually have a couple of weeks where you can work on a migration or work on a new project, or, try something out. And that's exactly why we're doing it now, so that we can get all of that feedback before we ship the one. Then I know.
I wanted to say something about that actually, and the feedback that we've had. So one of the ways that this release is incredibly different from the last major is that we've had so many people already working with the beta. So getting people to work with the RC, we absolutely want it to happen, but we really can't stress how ready it is. It's so ready because we've spent the last few months having developers work with it. So we've had lots and hundreds of people working with the betas. We had some very quick iterations too, because it was in front of people. Real life people were working with the beta. So if real life people are working with the RC, then I can't promise quick iterations, but I can promise good iterations, because it's being used in the wild.
Yeah. And I guess you kind of spearheaded the effort to get it in the hands of more people together with Carol. You did some learn-a-thons, right?
Yeah, terribly named, but terribly but appropriately named. So it was Carol's idea. So we must say a huge thank you to Carol, and it should be too, because people are working with it in the agency world. They're working with it in companies, and Carol felt it might be a nice idea for people to have a chance to get to work with the beta in a setting with other people. That was terrifying for us, because it meant that we then committed to working with something new in a setting with others, so in public. And it was hugely attended, incredibly popular. We got some excellent feedback, and possibly, but I really can't stress how helpful it was for HQ, because I mean, as a team, we were able to go back and say, we can work with this, we can work with this, we can work with this. And Bjarke and his team were just so fast. So yeah, that mix of community collaboration and HQ collaboration was really fantastic. We had 4 sessions, and it was planned but not structured. We wanted to know what you wanted to know about the beta. Yeah.
And there's more planned?
Yes, right. So coming up, we've got some specifically for gold partners, and we've tailored those to the needs of we've spoken to gold partners and what their needs are to adopt V9. Breaking down the barriers for adoption, but also, again, getting real life use into our iterations, so that we're not, deciding on our own. We're deciding with people that are going to be working with the software. And we have 4 of those. That's starting on the 16th of this month, which is July.
Next Friday.
And it's during work hours. It's because we like to think that our partners will give people time to attend. And we're structuring those in a similar way. So the community series that we ran will be very similar to the Gold Partner series. However, it will be informed by daily life at Gold Partners. So we'll build a curriculum around that. Born out of the last series of community learn-a-thons was a desire for more learn-a-thons with different themes. So in the future, what we have to look forward to, the way that we're going to work with you on this, will be looking at migrations, doing that together. This will be open to all. Looking at other things like building accessible starter kits, lots of, and starter kits for different use cases. These are all things that we do best when we do them together. Yeah. So we'd like to keep that format going.
It's just, I really like this idea, and I think it's such a great way of getting out of developing in a bubble, right? Because we very much develop the CMS, we don't use it that much, right? So getting the actual feedback from real world use is just crucial. And I think it also hopefully encourages people to contribute a bit more. So when you have specific topics like migration, for example, that could mean that that of course those get tested out, but people can also contribute to the migration documentation, for example.
Yes,
like that.
We saw lots of documentation pull requests born out of the
fantastic.
series, and of course we would, because we're all there together, and I'm like, oh, how do I do this? And as we work it out together, we document. So really just some fab collaboration, and from all different backgrounds. So we had seniors, juniors, midweights, agency, one person bands. It was a real mix, and I think we had fun too.
It definitely sounds like it. Awesome, great to hear, and it's really great to hear that more is coming, both for gold partners and for everyone. So really, really cool, really exciting. So talking about feedback, Bjarke, how do we still want people to contribute to Umbraco 9, even though we're at the home stretch? And how do you actually go about doing this?
Yeah, of course. So the best contribution right now is testing, as we already mentioned, because finding all the bugs are so crucial. So building projects, upgrading your projects, migrate your packages, and so on. And of course, if you find any issues, write an issue on the tracker, and if you're up for it, try to fix it yourself. That is often a good way to figure out what is going on. Otherwise, of course, we will pick it up. And right now, I think it's a good thing if the tracker is bloated with issues tomorrow. Even that, because it's still just a release candidate. So
that's a great attitude.
I really hope we find all the issues before the final launch. So
that's the right point to make. There is that we want these things to be identified before the launch rather than after the launch, right?
Yeah. So I think in the community there's kind of been this idea that when there's a new major for Umbraco, you kind of had to wait to the second or third minor to actually start using it. And I mean, this is what, if you're that person, then you can kind of think of the beta as the first one. Like so this is we believe that we are very, very close to the one that's actually usable.
Yeah, but it's also important to test in different environments. So if you're using Linux or Mac, try it out, because the combinations of test scenarios is now just increased to the to the infinity almost, because if we both have to test the database types compared with the environment or OS types, it's just there are so many combinations now.
Yeah, it's kind of grown exponentially.
Yeah, so and of course we have smoke tests, and we have tests that I just tested on Linux this morning, and things seems to work, but it's not more than I think it's 10 days ago or something. There was an issue raised because the grid, there was some paths in the grid which was not aligned correct, and this can really easily happen now while we're still merging from V8, where it's not a problem.
Yeah.
So, and we just merged the latest V8 this week, so 8.15. and all the performance issues, and of course it was a nightmare to merge, but hopefully we actually battle test both 8.15 and V9 by testing this release.
Yeah, it's even more rigorous testing, I guess, in a way. And Warren, you actually not that long ago posted a video, right, where you tried out Umbraco 9. Had to play around with it on an iPad, I think.
On an iPad, just because we could.
How was that?
I wouldn't use it as my daily go-to device, but
but getting Umbraco up and running on
Umbraco running on basically in the cloud in GitHub Codespaces, so it's in a Docker container, so it's running on Linux, so it magically just works. Was the outcome on that, and then I've obviously done some other videos just to prove that if you've got a MacBook and if that's your go-to jam, just showing the process in terms of how to get set up and how to set up the SQL database. But the process in terms of learning V9 has been fun. It's on the same journey as the rest of the community, basically. Netcore is new to me, like most people probably. We're obviously kind of stuck in the dark ages with .NET Framework, if you solely work on Umbraco stuff anyway. So yeah, it's been a fun process in terms of hacking and building bits and pieces and kind of documenting, either contributing back to our documentation or creating these quick snippet videos in terms of, all right, this is what we've done previously, this is how we kind of approach a problem now. So yeah, it's been a fun one, Rune.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
How's your confidence level? So are you actually going back?
You're going to put me on the spot, yes?
Are you going back to the Mac? Because I know you switched to a Windows machine.
I think maybe next machine iteration, whenever that's due, a few years time. I reckon I'll make the switch back. Everything's there on a Mac. I don't see the need for a Windows machine anymore. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
I guess them's fighting words.
Yep.
Let's see if the chat blows up.
Yeah, no, I'm not just
statement. No, fantastic. So just to wrap it up before we jump over to Q&A, what's next? What are we up to before the final release of Umbraco, and maybe we can even hint at when that will be. Filip, do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. Well, as for the date, we are targeting the last week of August as the release date. We haven't picked that date yet, so I couldn't even leak it if I wanted to. But that's what we're targeting right now. And I mean, we are saying targeting still because that's how it is when you do a process like this completely out in the open, and we put everything out transparently. So I mean, if something huge shows up that's super critical very late, then we might postpone. But the current target is late August, and that's what we're aiming towards. And until then, that was the real question. The main majority of the work is actually seeing all the issues that are hopefully reported and fixing them and reproducing them and all of that stuff, and then documentation. I would say documentation is going really well. I would say I think I saw a number this week that we're getting close to 50% of the documentation already ready for 9. So and that is a number that grows every day with the help from the community and from Bjarke's team and everything. So it's really good. But of course, we want to get closer to 100% before we launch. It's probably not going to be 100%, but we're going to get a lot closer. And then I mean, yeah, then we need to get cloud up and running, Umbraco Cloud. So with the new infrastructure that we started using on cloud, the cloud team is busy at work these days, actually, I think, on getting Umbraco 9 into cloud. I mean, you should go, there's a talk at Code Garden again about this, so you should go watch that to get all the details. But there are some changes between how Umbraco 9 runs in cloud compares to 8. The main one being that in cloud, there's actually going to be for 9 a solution file in the cloud, so that we can add NuGet stuff directly to that, and we can actually make a build in the cloud. So that will change how you work with the cloud a little bit, but again, much more for the better, and much more towards the standard way of working. So that's really cool for those of you
really
using cloud. I think you'll be very pleased with that. We expect, cloud will be part of the release. So cloud is ready with the Umbraco 9. End of August.
Fantastic. Right, I think that wraps up the official program. I guess you could say, Warren, have you got any questions coming in?
Yes. Better strap yourselves in because we're going to be busy. So
Great. That's good.
Yep. Nick Remington on Twitter had asked, how is the supporting documentation coming along with regards to documenting things like changes in namespaces, which NuGet package things are in, etc. Obviously, I know we've got quite a lot more NuGet packages than previously. I think it's just knowing where does stuff now live? Are we documenting that somewhere?
we haven't started on these yet. Currently, we are looking into the existing documentation and try to port that so we don't have wrong documentation. In my opinion, wrong documentation is worse than no documentation.
Yeah, and I think
more confusing for sure.
As we talked about earlier, there's a lot of things where we've gone like the standard way or the Microsoft way of doing things, and I think we're still considering whether we should document these or port those documentations or just point to how dependency injection works with with Microsoft or with like on .NET, and
We've got a list too going of things that we want documented. There's that's a link that I can share. So if you take a look at that, you'll see the things that will eventually be documented when we get to that part.
Yeah, that's on the GitHub issue tracker for documentation, right?
That's right, yeah.
So next question I've got is Ajin. Sorry if I got your name wrong, but is Umbraco v9 already with a reduced footprint? I presume in terms of memory and performance they're talking about.
This is super hard to answer because the underlying framework are handling this completely different. So basically Net 5 are using more memory if memory is available. So you need to test this on a very small or downscaled machine to really see it. But overall we are using the same memory, but in .NET Core and .NET 5, in ASP.NET Core, there are some changes to the request pipe or the request, so the HTTP context request, which is smaller in footprint. So when there is a lot of volume on the website, a lot of traffic, in theory it should be using less memory. But when it's just idled, it will be comparable. But as you can see in Shannon's talk, what is really improved is the CPU time, because there's a lot of optimization for string manipulations in .NET 5.
And I guess just better overall management of resources, right? Yeah. So both CPU and memory are managed way better. So you might use more at certain times, but it'll also be better at cleaning up and things like that.
But I mean, if the question refers to what Shannon was talking about as reduced footprint, the 8.jat features, those are in 8.15, and as Bjarke said, those are merged into the 9RC.
Yep, which makes a good point. Someone in the chat had asked this specifics question. Yeah, had the performance features in 8.15. Are they going to get merged up to 9? So yeah, that's nice to know. Next up, I got a question from Nick Remington. What has been the most enjoyable part of creating V9, and what has been the most annoying part? I suppose maybe Bjarke, you could maybe answer this.
The enjoyable part is to be back on .NET Core, which we started on. I had worked with .NET Core for several years before I joined Umbraco, and actually since the release candidates of these, so it was good to be back, and especially the new web framework. I like that, and I like the fact that the code is testable by default instead of every time I use an HTTP context, I'm just screwed if I need to test my own code. The most annoying part is to hit a moving target. So all the merges from V8. Just this week I had 120 files conflicting, and most of these files couldn't be found anymore. It was not just moved anymore. It was Git thought it was deleted. Even that, I increased the rename setting in Git. So to figure out and manually merge all these things is a nightmare, and there are so many. It's prone for error.
Yeah. And so make sure that the next time you see Bjarke, you give him a big pat on the back, because I think he's been the one primarily merging everything that has gone on from 8, for the last 12 or 18 months. He's been merging that up to 9. So so he really deserves a big drink.
I think it's a month of my life I'll never get back.
Yeah.
I guess also, is that a thank you or what, I don't know, but to Emma and the core collaborators team for being so good at merging pull requests and everything, because that makes Umbraco better, but also Bjarke's life a little bit tougher at times.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe they should be the ones that buy him.
Yeah, that should be how it works.
But especially these performance improvements,
Yeah.
those were very low level optimizations, and yeah, most of the things was changed anyway, so it was tough.
It's a little easier merging CSS than that.
Next up is a question from Casper. Looking forward to start our next homepage on V9 soon. Do you know which other packages are V9 ready and coming soon? Filip, I know you've been talking to a lot of package devs. Maybe you got some insight in terms of who's working on what and kind of at least a finger in the air.
Yeah, so I've been trying to reach out to like authors of top 40, 50-ish packages on our, so the packages that has the most downloads on our and NuGet, and I've talked to them, or just sneak peeked at their repositories or whatever to see what was going on, and I think out of 40 or 50, I think only a handful is not working on it. So it's looking very, very positive, and as we said earlier, like the first ones are already out on the RC that was released now 30 minutes ago or something like that. So there's a lot of speed with especially the more popular packages. So packages like the doc type grid editor, like using contentment, I think is also by Lee. I think there's lots of work on the very popular packages that marketing suite and vendor. Yeah. So lots of work already happening, and I think it's just amazing to see. And that is also what will give us the success of this RC, because if none of the packages are available, we know that then a lot of your sites can't be migrated, right? So it's really good, and a nice opportunity to shout out to all of the package developers. Like we really appreciate all your work.
Yeah, definitely. And this is just quite a big difference from Umbraco 8 launch as well, that we're seeing this big of an uptake way ahead of the launch, right? We haven't even set a release date or anything yet, and there's packages being released for it. So it's it's really, really, really great to see.
Good stuff. Julian has a question. It was mentioned that the database is 99% the same as V8. What is the 1% change, and who would it affect? Is it still the case that we could swap an up-to-date V8 database straight in most scenarios?
Yeah, so the 1% is basically a new migration. So the size of this is comparable to the migrations we do in minor versions of V8. So you can't swap, but you can take a backup of your V8 database and put into V9 and then just use it, because it will be migrated. And the changes are related to members, because we have added some more security information. We have a security stamp and stuff like that on the members, and I think all of the changes are related to members.
Okay. Next question up is from Paul Johnson. Oh, I've disappeared. Fine. Paul asks, presumably the back office could provide a way to download NuGet packages and restart app for more no-code setups. I think,
as we said, this is something we're looking into. Like, how can we add some of the convenience of the package section that we're kind of compromising now with the NuGet approach. And there's a couple of different ideas up in the air. We've talked about maybe having two different kinds of packages without DLLs, more or less, that you can install runtime, or maybe we could hold your hand in some scenarios a little more. But I mean, the thing that you're seeing now that Bjarke showed, or that was in the blog post, I think that's what will be part of the 9.0 release. And of course, ideation, there's a discussion on GitHub discussions about this already. So go add your ideas there if you haven't. I think that's valuable for everybody.
Yeah.
So we absolutely don't want it to be complicated, to be harder for anybody. We want it to be as easy and friendly as possible.
Nice. Next question, I'm going to keep hammering away. This one's from Mike Chambers. I think I saw a mention of a V9 Umbraco file system providers.azure. Is that right? Also, is there any replacements for image processor cache on Azure? we know anything about this, Bjarke? I know that the file system provider, the cloud team, are potentially working on this at the minute.
For the file system provider, we talked together with the open source package for VA8 and decided to make the one HQ used for cloud open source instead of managing two. So that will be available. I don't think it's available yet. And the other question, can you repeat that?
Image processor cache.
Yeah, the image processor cache.
So
the cache
first of all, image processor is replaced by image sharp now. And I don't know about the old package, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I'm not entirely sure if there's a direct replacement as of yet, but I'm sure if the need comes, the community will come together and join forces and make it.
Yeah, so basically the integration from Umbraco into image sharp is not that hard. It's everything Umbraco knows about image sharp is we can generate URLs that image sharp can pick up. So in theory, you could have these on another domain or whatever, but you can also configure the underlying image sharp.web with all the possible configurations. So if it's available in that package, it will be available through Umbraco.
And I think it is depending on what part or what type of caching he's talking about. Then I think the cached images work in similar way to what it does in the image processor. At least that's also why we wanted to stay with what James has created, right? Because it is similar in functionality to what Umbraco has been using for years and years now.
Next up is another question from Nick Remington. If people start building on the RC today, what are the chances of breaking changes between the RC and the release?
I guess there will be breaking changes, but like 8.15, there's also breaking changes. So every time we merge from 8, every breaking change there will be a breaking change in 9 also. And of course, it is now or never for V9 if we need to make the breaking changes. But of course, we try to avoid them.
And there's nothing planned, I think is very important to say. So it will be because things need fixing before the final.
We don't intend to make any more, but of course, if bugs are found that is breaking in fixing them, of course we will fix them. That's the whole point of doing this before we actually release.
Exactly.
Next question up is a question from Dave. He asks, now that we're moving to .NET 5, will the next step be to rework the database model? I noticed it's using deprecated column types and other interesting setups. Reason for this is Azure Cloud. Any thoughts, Bjarke?
I don't know about timing, but it is one of our future projects is to look into the database.
I think we recognize the need to do this, especially for some of the newer features that we have in mind that we want to build, like variants on the block list or like on a block level or something like that. That would require us to look at the database structure anyway. So that is something we will do. But yeah, we can't say anything about timing yet. But it is pretty high on our list. But it is also a pretty huge undertaking to change how we store data. So it might not. Don't expect it to be 9.1. But yeah.
It's also an interesting trade-off, right? With these bigger projects that we know need to happen at some point, and in some cases, it seems like it makes sense to do a big bang release where everything is fixed. So new framework, better database, new UI, better back office APIs, like all of these things.
Are you talking about Umbraco 5 now?
One big breaking change.
One version.
But that would also mean that it wouldn't come out for another couple of years or
forever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the uptake will be way bigger, I think, because it is a relatively smaller release. Just updating the framework.
So the release strategy or the how we build stuff at Umbraco is that we want to do smaller incremental stuff whenever possible. So of course, for a big migration like this, like we can't really just do half of it in .NET Core. Like this needs to be a big thing, but that's why we've kept everything else the same to make it as small as possible. And it will be the same when we launch the new back office. And with the new strategy of doing minors doing majors every 6 months, that means that we have windows recurringly to do smaller breaking changes. Yes. So it's, I mean, it is it's going really well, and I think we can expect the database to change sometime after 9.
Okay, next question up is from Nick Remington again. This one's probably for you, Emma. Have you found the community's been engaging well with the beta release to help with testing before this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that quite often when you get a beta release, there can be an assumption that it's not for you, or that it's, you know, oh, someone will look at it and they will do it for me. What we've really tried to push this time around is that it is for you. Let's get our hands on it. And as a result, we've had so many different use cases come up very quickly. I think it's not just been a great experience for HQ either, because we've got lots of devs now throughout the community who understand how they're going to be working with the RC. So now the bridge to working with the RC isn't going to be too big a deal. And we really did keep it light in terms of timing. So in just a couple of hours, people were able to start logging issues, logging need for documentation, or raising things in person with people who could do that too. So yeah, really good engagement with testing. And you know, as I said, I would like everybody to have their hands on it. This isn't just for the senior in your team or just for the person who's been given time. It's the quickest getting started I've seen people get started on of all our releases. Those edge cases, like Bjarke was saying, you know, with all the different ways that you can build now with V9, we're not going to catch them all if it's a small crowd working with it. So the more engagement, the better the release can become as we go.
Next up is a question from Mike Bates. On the topic of data or databases, are there any plans or desires to support PostgreSQL at some point?
So it will be part of our migration or our database task to look into whether it makes sense. But again, if it requires even more testing, then it can be problematic. Already now we have a lot of testing just to support SQL Compact Edition besides the Microsoft database.
I think when we look at projects like that, there's a time here in the beginning where we expand the scope and like see what would we like to be part of this. People have been talking about entity framework, and people have been talking about MySQL, and you know, all sorts of things. And then at some point we'll start narrowing in, figuring out like what do we need, how will this actually be. And I think they will be the same for this. So you can count on us to do this in the public. So as soon as we have something just a little more concrete than ideas in our heads, then we'll start to put it in GitHub discussions or a similar place, and I'm sure Rune will tweet all over it. Yeah. So it's we will keep this open, and you can bring us all your ideas at that time, and then we'll see what makes it in the first scope. But yeah, we know that people want to use other kinds of databases, SQL and NoSQL.
Okay. Next question up is from Andrew. Do we have any suggestions or ideas on how to migrate a project from V8 to V9? Is there any blog posts or docs, or is it as simple as we say it is, Bjarke, in terms of point a database, V8 database?
That is what I did. So basically take a backup of the database and then create a new Umbraco solution and use this database, and then it breaks because it's missing the templates. Then I merged the templates, fixed the build errors, and so on, and just continued. For a small site like mine, which is just using pure Umbraco and forms, it actually took only half an hour, so that was pretty easy. and most of the changes was things that was actually deprecated in V8. I didn't update before. So, I could have done that. So that is a good idea to avoid having obsolete stuff or using obsolete stuff in the latest V8. Then it will be way easier for you.
But yeah, if the packages that you depend on are ready and you don't have a lot of custom code, it'll mainly be going through your templates, figuring out their namespaces, and there's a couple of changes like that to your templates. But other than that, like it is just it just works.
And we'll do some of this in public soon too.
Yeah.
We'll have sessions where we can all do this together, hold hands, and see some of the more complicated custom solutions and some of the really nice simple migrations.
Yeah, nice. I guess that it's also a tricky thing to document. You can of course do the small steps, but people do tons of different things, and you get into weird edge cases. And having that documented might also confuse people or lead them down the wrong path and things like that. So it is actually it can be a little bit of a tricky thing.
But when you do it, please blog so other people can find your blog and see what you learned and how you did it.
Yep, of course. Next question is from Gavin Williams. Will V9 be load balance ready, especially in the terms of Azure? I suppose they mentioned Redis cache, media blob storage, etc. Are those packages for V9 ready?
So as I said, the blob storage is, I don't think it's ready yet, but soon it will be ready. And regarding load balancing, you will need to do the basic stuff for load balancing in ASP.NET Core. So you will need to set up a distributed cache. That could be Redis. Redis is, as far as I know, the fastest one. And distributed caches are required if you use sessions, and under the hood, the temp data in views are using sessions. So yeah, you will need to set it up. And then instead of machine keys, you now use a new thing called data protection providers, I guess it is, which you also need to set up. The rest, or the Umbraco part, is not changed, so this is the same. You will still have to change some configurations to be ready for Asia. There are some examine Lucene changes because the way Asia works with the hot and warm, hot and cold storage and so on. But actually this is an area that is where the documentation is migrated. So try it out.
Yeah, so it's again one of those scenarios where it's like the parts that are Microsoft or the platform thing, Google for that's not really specific to Umbraco, and there's probably lots of stuff already out there on it, and the stuff that's in it that is in Umbraco is the same.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're muted, Warren.
Warren.
The stuff of what I wanted to hear. Perfect. Nick asks, I suppose this is one for you, Filip. Will there be a guided migration process for Umbraco cloud sites running V8 to migrate them to V9, or will it be a case of setting up a brand new V9 site? So I suppose, is there a story from upgrading from V8 to V9 on cloud?
We haven't decided completely yet. I mean, at least from day one, it's going to be a matter of more or less doing what Bjarke said. So, copy your database, create a new project, point that at your database, or load the database content in, and take it from there. So nothing special really in cloud for that. Whether we at a later point might be able to automate some of that for you or something, that's, yeah, it would be nice, but not for launch.
Okay. Next up, some anonymous user asks, will it be possible in Umbraco 9 to have all the new awesome features of .NET 5, like a combination of MVC and a Blazor server? I suppose, Bjarke, maybe you can answer that?
I haven't tested it out yet, but I have seen multiple blog posts doing that. So
I must admit, I've seen Carol and a few other people testing around with Blazor and Umbraco V9.
Exactly. So basically,
Nima probably.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Umbraco is basically just a native ASP.NET Core application now. Of course, we add a lot of functionality, but it's just a regular application like everything else.
Sort of.
Next question is from Anton. I heard there's a plan to have ability to use something else other than Umbraco.examine, something like Azure Cognitive Search or Azure Search. Is that true?
I haven't heard about that. So we are basically using examine as our abstractions to these underlying search technologies. So it will be something that examine has to support. I'm pretty sure it already supports Elasticsearch and so on, and there's also ExaminX and so on.
And there's definitely packages that adds that support to Umbraco 8 and 7.
Yeah, but out of box we're using Examine and Lucene, and that is the updated version of Lucene, which is cross-platform.
Nice. We're almost at the end of our list of questions. I'm just checking. I think this is a bit more of a general question, but Anton again asks, in Umbraco 9, do we still have to define grid components or elements in the grid.config JSON file, or can it be done in other ways like C# code?
Oh, so this has been migrated. I think the grid is the same. By default, we just read from an embedded file. So it's not there by default, but if you want to change anything, you need to insert it in the same location.
Perfect.
But in general, we have migrated settings from XML files into the new configuration pattern. So you can use app settings, JSON, or environment variables, or whatever.
Or add them in a package manifest, Søren says.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right, Søren.
Oh, it's good to see you again, Søren.
Perfect. I'm just going to keep a last minute eye on the chat. Vera is asking me, where's my party hat? Normally I have a little party hat from my daughter, but I think it's disappeared in the house. Sorry, Vera. She's probably hidden it in a bunch of her toys, knowing her.
Yeah, we'll have to send you some for 9 release.
Yeah, we should definitely put that on the list.
Yep.
New hats for Warren.
Yeah, that's it.
Least.
I'll talk to Paul about the budget then.
Yeah.
$3.99. Too much.
Yep.
You're looking at big hats.
yeah, I want a big hat. On an unrelated note, Paul Johnson asks, how was morning stand-up with regards to the football? Let's just not talk about it. Yeah, it was a bit awkward.
Yeah, we got through the whole thing until the very end when somebody who is English did bring it up.
Was it me?
No, it wasn't me
not
either.
cool. It's not cool.
It didn't involve laser pointers. I'm not sure.
To be honest, I would have a Danish flag in the background if we had beaten you. So.
I had the shirt ready as well.
Yeah, me too.
Gloating is totally fine. That's part of it.
I would have loved to gloat, but after the way that the fans behaved, I just can't. Have to come in with apologies. Thanks.
Doesn't look like there's any more questions really, so I'll leave it for you, Rune, to wrap up.
Yep. Well, thanks for keeping an eye on everything, Warren, and thank you for watching and for asking a gazillion questions. That was really awesome. If you think of anything else, you can actually catch us tomorrow on Umbraco Coffee, where at least a few of us will make an appearance, and you can ask there in the chat as well. I know Callum sent us quite a technical, very long question, and Bjarke said we're saving that one for tomorrow, or maybe even a private session, depending on how long the answer is, I guess. But tune into Umbraco Coffee tomorrow, 12:30 CEST. So, right? I think that's right.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
So that's 11:30 BST.
Okay.
Yeah. Fantastic. Congrats to HQ. Congrats to you, Bjarke, Filip, on the release candidate. Fantastic work. And for everyone else, please install it, start testing, give us feedback. We're really looking forward to it. Bye, everyone.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.